Hi, everyone. Great to see you all. I'm very excited that we have rogerdrummer again with us. And I was watching the last two sessions that we had with Roger, and so many questions come up for myself. So I'm going to ask those, and later I'm going to read some of the questions you asked. Hi, Roger. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm doing well. Yeah.
Excellent. I was thinking about those 5 bodies or 5 layers that you were talking about it, because in yoga we have those 5 layers or 5 bodies, and especially when I'm teaching yoga nidra, I tell them how they can go from one body to another. So I like to ask you, because what you experienced the 5th layer or Ananda Maya Kosha, and it was long enough, like 4 months, I think, when you shared.
4 months.
Yeah. So the first question I have is, when you went through it and you said, it took me 4 months, from outside, what people were seeing about you in that 4 months?
Well, if you were sensitive to energy and could see it, you could see that I had a light going into my head and I had a lot of light around me, but most people can't see anything. And most people, they're very, how would you say it? Not sensitive to anything. So I probably just appeared to be some guy who was happy.
Okay.
And that's it. Because because in reality, most people don't pay any attention to you anyway.
Good point.
When you go out in public, nobody pays attention to you. Nobody, but I was just probably appeared, if anybody even talked to me, I probably just appeared very happy.
Okay, very happy, and also relaxed and energized.
Right, yes.
Beautiful. Now, from your own experience, how many hours a day you were sleeping in that 4 months?
Oh, probably between, I would say 7 hours at least, because it was the end of summer, right? And during the summer, I have to get up at 5 because I have a dog. And right now, like today, it was 90 degrees at 5:15. So the dog can't, but the sun wasn't up. So I can still take the dog out for a walk because there's no sun. But after that, you can't go outside with an animal. So I have to get up. But once September hits, then I can sleep in till 7.
Okay.
So it made a big difference. So I was sleeping probably 7 to 8 hours. Yeah.
Okay. And it was a no interruption sleeping?
Well, I don't remember a lot about it, but it was fine sleeping. I had a lot of vivid dreams, I wouldn't say just random dreams, but more like some sort of lesson dreams or something. And I was trying at the time to be conscious in my dreams.
So what I am hearing is, in experiencing in that 4 months, you were not only operating on the 5th layer, Ananda Maya Kosha, also you were connected to the 4th layer, that is the wisdom layer, or Vijnanan, I think, Vijnanan Maya Kosha.
Okay.
And you had lucid dreams. You were present to your dreams? You were getting teaching, you were learning?
I was getting some teachings while I still had cancer on things to take, which was quite funny to me because my guru appeared to me in my sleep. And it was funny actually, because he told me to take a drug. I just thought that was hilarious, but I had always wanted to try that. It was low dose naltrexone, which is for regulating immune and endorphins and immune response.
And regulate in a matter of bring something down and raise another thing up. What is those two?
Well, low dose naltrexone is usually used for autoimmune conditions. And in the middle, you take it before bed because you're going to feel downed out because it shuts off endorphins in your brain, but then which shuts off hyperactive immune function. And then it turns back on 4 or 5 hours later when you're waking up. So you don't notice it. You don't notice anything. You just.
That's beautiful. That's exactly, it was coaching you, your master was coaching you how interrupt the process of constant being in a stress state,
Right.
to go and relax and then wake up again and have it regular.
Yeah, so I think, low dose naltrexone works like a miracle for some people. It's only like $35 a month. You just have to find somebody to prescribe it. You get it at a compounding pharmacy, and you don't want to do more than like 2 milligrams to start out. And at the most, you never take over 5 because, they use it for drug overdose, but that's 50 milligrams to 100. Some doctor figured out in research, you could do 2 milligrams and then maybe up to 3 or 4 and do it while you sleep. And it has this response of shutting off autoimmune disease. It takes about 30 days to kick in, and then you get an effect from it.
Interesting. So let's go back to that experience, because that's very valuable, especially for people, the experience of the 5th body connection,
Right.
layer connection, the Ananda Maya Kosha experience. And the reason I'm asking you this, because I had these several similar experiences several times in my life.
Right.
And the cause of it was different things. But the reason I'm asking you, because I'm checking and see what was similar, what was different, because I never used any chemical to manage my states, either physical, mental, or emotional. I never used any medication. So for that reason, for me, is interesting to hear this.
Right. And I wasn't stressed when I started taking it because I had been taking Inner Peace, and I was having so much fun researching herbs and stuff that I pretty much didn't think about cancer hardly at all. I just thought about how much fun it was to regulate my body, to regulate my ketones, and how easy I got into it, and how high I could get my ketones was fun to me, to regulate my blood and stuff. And but then when I got that message, I thought, wow, was so exciting. I get to try this thing, So everything was exciting to me.
So this 4-month period happened during your research on certain herbs for taking care of your condition.
Well, the 4-month bliss thing happened after all my research, I started the research when I got cancer. And then in 7 weeks, my cancer was gone. But the researching it at the same time, getting into ketosis, everything was new to me. And I just got really excited about it. And I was just excited about doing it every morning.
Oh,
because
interesting. So that means your healing had happened even before these 4 months.
yeah, well, before that 4 months, the 4 months was just bliss. I was just blissed out. I was still doing my stuff because I just felt so amazing. So I didn't stop anything, but it was about 7 weeks of doing the herbs and researching that precluded these 4 months of bliss. All my research was almost over by the time I got blissed out. I mean, I found everything I thought I'd take. I did randomly look at stuff, but it was just more for information. I wasn't looking for anything new.
Got it. So actually, it makes it more interesting because your healing didn't happen after your bliss out.
No, it happened. Now this is hard to actually even say when exactly your cancer disappeared, because who knows, but I got a message from my intuition on September 1st, which was 7 weeks after I started it, that just told me my cancer was gone. So I just assume it went away that day. But every day in the weeks before that, I would just express gratitude that it was already gone. I was waiting for it to come down to this plane.
Beautiful. But for me, the interpretation I have is the first conversation, the first time when you heard there is a hole in your field of energy,
Right.
that you need to repair it or take care of it.
Right.
So in that 7 weeks, you were working on that.
Right.
Now you have a whole consistent and powerful energy field. And after that, you get connected to your fifth level consciously.
Consciously, right.
Yeah, because unconsciously all of us, we are connected to our fifth level, but we are not aware of it. We are not experiencing it because of third layer, that is our mind and emotion, is constantly creating havoc, and we don't get connected.
Well, I had many experiences of my fifth level because I had a very highly organized intuition, but I never knew when that was going to happen. But when it happens, the way it happens for me, it is a sign you're connected to your fifth layer of your soul, because I would sometimes get movies that would appear in front of me. The last time it happened was I was driving and a movie appeared outside my windshield. I was driving in a snowstorm, and it was just as real as if there was a projector. In fact, at one point, I felt like there was a projector where my third eye was, and I was just putting it out on a screen outside the windshield of my car. And I got so absorbed in watching it because the movie was about Alzheimer's. I was driving down the road in this snow. It was just a real heavy snow, but not a storm, but real heavy snow. And it was a 4-lane highway. I was on 2 lanes going east, and up in Michigan. And I was eating chocolate and drinking some green tea because I had worked all day, and I was driving from Chicago back to Ohio. And for some reason, while I was doing that, I had this thought, just like that. It wasn't really a thought. It was like a command. It was like I made a command, show me Alzheimer's. And as soon as that thought appeared, the movie popped out outside the car, over the hood of my car, became one big movie screen. And I saw this silver human, and how all the pathways of light coming in through the head and the chakras, and how they went into the head, and how it would heal connections in the brain.
Yeah.
And then how pathways of light in other parts of the body would open up, and all these pathways of light were connecting and opening up damaged parts of the brain. And it just went on and on and on, and right down to the cellular level. I was watching light go right down to a cell, get really big, and it would go in, and it was so fascinating until my car started sliding sideways and I woke up and lost the movie. All of a sudden, I felt like I was falling through space. I thought, oh, wow, because I'm still watching and I'm falling through space. And then I realized, no, my car's going sideways down the highway about 70 miles an hour in the snow. And so I whipped it around and got it ready.
I got it.
And
Now,
it came to rest right at a turnoff for a rest stop. So I went in the rest stop and went to the bathroom. And
now I have a question. You mentioned about organized intuition.
right.
Tell me more about that. First of all, how you had the opportunity to learn and organize your intuition?
No, I meant it was a highly organized or developed intuition. I didn't do anything consciously, except that for years I had been doing certain meditations that open up your third eye and your crown, and doing it a lot. And those are the chakras that go out through your layers of your soul and bring in information. So it was very common for me to get signals or have a voice tell me things all the time, but I never had any control over it. I never could just try to turn it on. It would just show up and tell me things. I could be talking to a client about herbs, and then I would just be told exactly what was wrong with them.
Got it.
Like somebody was talking to me, but there was nobody there, right?
Yeah.
Or I would see them they would be standing in front of me, and I would see them standing next to themselves in a different form that was showing me some secret thing about them. And so it was always like that. Or how it started was it would tell me who was going to win sporting events.
Yes, you said, you mentioned that about the boxing thing.
Yeah, they would tell me exactly what time they'd win, how they would win the fight, everything. And I was thinking, wow.
This is actually that shows you always had access to your fourth body.
Yeah.
The body of creative mind, creation, ideas. I think all the artists, all the creative minds, they are getting their intuition or ideas from that layer, and you were connected to that part of yourself.
Right.
And interestingly enough, you didn't have any negative connotation or negative belief about your intuition part.
No, not at all. It was, and it's never been wrong about anything in 30 years that I've been having it. I never get a wrong message. One of my earlier spiritual teachers told me that when you get messages like that, you're supposed to then test it out to see if it's true. But all my things were true. Nothing's ever told. Do you know I used to have a patent in growing medicinal mushrooms, right? It's expired because when it's 20 some year thing, right? But I didn't know how to grow mushrooms. I had just got done doing a 3-hour meditation, sitting outside in Taos, New Mexico, in between 3 pine trees, in this place where you couldn't see me because the trees, it was just like this little circle the size of a round kitchen table in the middle of 3 bushy pine trees. And I went out there every morning to meditate because no one was around, and it was just pure silence and really nice air. Up in the Taos is like 7,800 feet. It was just gorgeous. I went out there every morning, and I was doing all this energy work, meditation and blessing things. And I went into the house after I was done, and I was really high from the meditation. I just felt so amazing. And this friend of mine called me on the phone, and he had been calling me for 2 weeks about a certain ingredient he wanted to add to this formula that we were making, right? And I kept telling him, no, it didn't fit, and he was bugging me. So that day I went in and the phone rang, and he asked me the same question again. And right then, my intuition just came through me, and I told him how to grow mushrooms with it. and how it would create novel chemicals that don't exist on the market, and how I explained the whole process to him. I didn't know anything about it, right? I explained the whole process to him, and he just goes, oh, and he hung up on me, right? And I found out like 2 months later, he did it, and it did exactly what I told him it was supposed to do. And so he ended up filing it. It became a patent in growing anthocyanin-rich medicinal mushrooms.
Wow.
And I don't know anything about growing mushrooms.
I love that. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent. Actually, that's the fourth layer, I think, is the layer that rishis in India, they get the information and share it with their students. It's the same thing that scientists, they come up with the ideas. And the fourth layer of being connected to the fourth layer, all of us, we are connected. We don't have access because of third layer, that is our thoughts and emotion and the belief that we have. You know how many people, they get those kind of information, but they don't consider it true. They resist it, they fight it, they push it aside, they degrade it.
Oh yeah, you know, Amit Goswami talks in his book about levels of creativity. And he goes, and what most people consider creativity is just themselves thinking about something and taking information someone's already given them and tweaking it a little bit. He goes, but real creativity, and I don't know the exact term he uses for it, but true creativity is something that just comes out of the universe and it's never been discussed before, right? And I think this is what Einstein did. I swear, Einstein wrote his 4 most famous papers, right? Everybody knows the E = mc squared, right? But he also wrote other 4 papers while he was just a clerk in a patent office. He never had a laboratory to test out any theories. He never had anything. He just dumped all these papers in 1 year, and they're still like the 4 most famous papers in science, right?
Yeah.
And so where did he get that? And then he used to do this technique where he'd sit in a chair with a tennis ball in his hand, and he just would sit there, relax, until he went into this like space that was between sleep and between waking. And if he got too towards sleep, the ball would fall on the floor, and it's startling, right? But when he died, they dissected his brain, and they said it wasn't anything spectacular except this one place in his brain was larger than most people. Well, that one place was associated with your crown chakra, you know. So I think Einstein was just downloading stuff all the time, and it was just his nature to do it. There was something, you know, his karma, his nature. He just downloaded information.
Actually, there is in India, there is a mathematician, famous mathematician, that he actually, for some reason, he wrote that mathematic process that he was thinking about it. And after that, he died. But it's like 72 hours, he downloaded everything, he wrote and died. Probably he was dying anyway, but he wants to make sure that download those things. And I forgot his name. He's very interesting. He solved certain mathematical problems that for many centuries nobody has solved it, and he did it in 72 hours.
Yeah.
The way I see it, it's like if you look at it, you will see in the history, Edison and Tesla, both of them, they find about electricity, each one from different ways, but at the same time. At the same time that Marconi, Italian, create the radio, there was so many other people, they were making it, and they had it, but Marconi has the opportunity to have the first patent and so on. So the point is, like, the information is out there.
The information is out there.
who's connected, who's connecting to it, who believe in his connection and believing in those information, and they share it.
Right. No, it's all out there. In fact, they claim if you have something like that happen, you can't wait that long to put it out there because everybody else is tapping into it too.
Exactly.
Everybody else that's working on the same problem, if they're open and doing certain things, it might just download at any moment.
Exactly. And that's a collective consciousness
Right.
or collective unconscious, either way.
It's the same principle you see in the ocean where you see a school of like 300 fish, and all of a sudden, every single one of them at the exact moment switches and goes a different direction. They don't have a few go and then the other ones follow. The whole thing just turns like this and goes. It's the same principle. There's all kinds of these beings that might download the same thing at one time.
Actually, there is a I think is a study by Japanese about certain monkeys that in this island, these monkeys, they come up with something like just imagine a coconut. They put it in a water and then they break it.
Right.
Before that, nobody was doing it. So after they did it, a couple months later, another island with the same kind of monkey, they start doing it without having interaction.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
a collective unconscious. And they experience it.
Yeah, it happens all. It's just how it works. You know, there's information. Everything's information, energy and information.
Yeah, yeah. So what I was going to ask you, in that period of 4 months that you were going through that experience of bliss,
Right.
the experience that you have yourself with your food, the reason I'm asking, because the food and the sleep and these kind of things is belong to the first layer, our physical body, but you're experiencing the 5th layer, that is the Ananda Maya Kosha. So how was your, as I asked you about your sleeping, how was your eating, the amount of your eating? You were not that much hungry, or you were getting hungry?
No, you know, I didn't change my eating pattern from when I had cancer. I got into a certain eating pattern because that put me into ketosis, and I just stayed into that the whole I stayed in that for a couple of years. So food wasn't important to me, like having all different types of things or eating sweets or any of that stuff. Food was just a way to feed myself and my cells while I was staying in ketosis. So I ate certain foods. I didn't care if I ate the same thing 10 days in a row. Didn't bother me at all, because the whole purpose was to be nourished, but also not to get out of ketosis. And so food, and I kind of retain that today. I love food and I love eating, but I'm not someone who craves anything.
So it was more sustenance of
More
your physical
sustenance, yeah.
body. Okay, got it. And in the matter of stress and breathing, how was your breathing in there during that 4 months, and how was your stress?
My stress didn't exist. I had no stress. When you're blissed out, you have no stress at all. You think every moment is just the greatest moment there is, and it doesn't matter what's happening. It's just the greatest moment there is. You're just, and you think anything that pops into your mind is possible. It's just, everything's possible. So it's just a wild, so you're just totally present in the now, and everything is possible. If you can think of something, you just assume it's going to happen. And if it doesn't, you don't even care. So nothing matters.
So we can say in that bliss state, you are in unconditional present,
Yeah.
unconditional unconditional manifestation, because you said everything is possible. So you can manifest anything you desire because you are in that state.
But it's kind of funny because you don't have any desires.
That's the most important element
Yeah.
of creation, is without desire. Because when you have desire, you're not in the fifth layer anymore.
You just don't have anything any pressing needs about anything. Everything's just perfect. It's
Yes. And there is no desire, but
experiencing it.
And any question comes up, the answer is there.
Yeah.
Excellent. Beautiful. So in that 4 months, was there any event in your life that from a regular person may be very hard, or dealing with it is not easy, but you dealt with it with that kind of being present and being in that space of?
I don't remember anything being hard that I had to deal with. I do remember at the health show I was at, just funny things happening. Like I had been walking around all day and I hadn't eaten anything. And I walked in front of this booth that was a French company. And I remember thinking, I probably need to eat. I haven't eaten all day. And right at that moment, they rolled a cart out, a whole table right in front, and parked it right in front of me. Just like I was standing there and I asked for it and they just parked it right in front of me. And it was this big spread of all these French cheeses and stuff, and then French champagne. And it wasn't cheap. It was $100 and some a bottle. Just everything was just sitting there. And they asked me if I wanted some. So I just stood there and ate and drank champagne. And then I moved on. It was just, I just thought it was so funny that it just appeared the moment I was thinking I better eat.
Now question, because you said that you were in that ketosis and you drank champagne.
Yeah.
Champagne. What was there any reaction to your ketosis?
I didn't know until the next day, but I didn't drink very much champagne.
Oh, okay.
But I was eating nothing but brie and fat cheeses with it. So there wasn't much of a rise in blood sugar. If you sit down to eat, like say you're on a low carb diet, and if you sit down to eat and you eat a bunch of fat and some protein, and then at the end you have a little bit of carb, it does nothing to your blood sugar. It doesn't go up. It's like when you go to a restaurant, they always bring you bread first. Well, it's the worst thing in the world to eat if you don't want your sugar to go up. But if you eat the bread after you're done eating your meal, your protein and your vegetables, it hardly affects your blood sugar at all.
Amazing, interesting. I just remember a memory of my master. He was in Himalaya mountain with his master, and they were coming down from the mountain after 21-day fast.
Right.
21 days they just drank water, nothing. They are coming down. They said we get close to this village and the smell of sambusa. Sambusa is those triangle, like a
with potatoes in it and the peas and the curry.
Yeah, and they put it in a deep fry it.
Yeah.
So can you imagine, on an empty stomach, they felt they're drawn to it. They went and ate, and I told my master, nothing happened to your stomach? He said, no. Interestingly enough, when we are I think when we are operating in that fifth layer, physicality and other things is so we are not vulnerable as much as when we are back to the lower.
Those two guys were probably very high consciousness. There's a lot of things that would never bother them, right? Compared to us normal people. You know,
Yeah.
you have to look it up. You remember Ram Dass's story when he went to India?
Yes.
His guru was sitting up front of the class, and they mentioned something about LSD, and he took their LSD away from him and drank the whole vial of it, right? It didn't do anything to him.
Actually, Ram Dass was saying, I had my whole stash for 2 months. My master said, what is it? Put it in my hand. And then Ram Dass put it in his hand. He said he put it up, everything. And then he was sitting in front of me for the next 4 or 5 hours, and nothing happened to him.
Nothing happened to him. Yeah. So, you know, there's a lot of things we don't understand, but there's a lot of stories like that about it, you know, and if you witness something like that, then, you know, it's life altering.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. So inside of these questions and whatever I asked you, if something came up and you missed it to share, would you like to share with us?
No, during that 4 months, it's just that everything you were doing, because you were in the moment, was just exciting. You know, I made Thanksgiving dinner that year for my whole family, and I never made a turkey before, but it was just so much fun, and it turned out perfectly. Everything was just mind-blowing, and I never knew how to make any of it. And but it was just so much fun, and to be in that moment and do that. And then when I had my last biopsy, which was after about 3.5 months after I had been declared cancer-free, I had my last biopsy because the doctor didn't believe that it could be possible. So when I was in the hospital, I was having such a great time. And the attending physician, his assistant, we were just having a blast. In fact, when I got rolled into the operating room to have the biopsy, the anesthesiologist was going, what the hell's wrong with you people? You're laughing. You're coming in here to see if you have cancer, and you're laughing, and you're just, you know, seemed like she was upset. We were having such a great time. I think I was laughing right up until they knocked me out. I don't know. Everything was just so funny to me.
Interesting. Interesting.
The whole process. The nurse said a couple of things to me that I still remember, and it's been almost 7 years. It was just so funny.
Interesting. I really appreciate, and I learn every time we talk.
Yeah.
And it's like a highlight for me, everything you say, and it brings me to certain memory from the past. And it's like a verification of my own learning and experiences. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, you know, I think everybody has intuitive moments, but if they worked on it with meditation and stuff, they could really expand their intuition. And they have to learn how to listen to it, though, you know.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And willing to let go of their own limiting beliefs or limiting experiences from before.
Yeah, when you first start hearing your intuition, you start losing attachment to all your beliefs, because it's such a wild experience to have a voice like that just tell you something, and then it plays itself out right in front of you, and it's true. And it's an amazing experience.
So because this could be another issue for some people, because we know there is a diagnosis for certain people about schizophrenia, that there are voices in their head.
Right.
It's like it's like someone may say, so how do I know which voice is true or which voice is
Well, you know, I think when it's intuition, it's always something positive. It's always something that is that if you check it out, always turns out to be true. And hearing voices is a different thing. It's often not beneficial, and it's not very, like I had a grandmother who heard voices all the time, and it was all arguments, right? It was something arguing with her. So she was slightly schizophrenic, but but very lucid and clear at other moments. But then she'd have these schizophrenic voices that she would literally scream at and argue with, and that's a different thing.
Yeah, actually, the best definition for me when I answer this question is the difference between tension and pressure, relaxation and expansion.
Right.
The voice of our intuition, the voice of that divine voice or whatever it is, it's expanding and relaxing, and you feel safe. On this one, you're fearful, you're tense, you are angry, you feel a lots of hurtful emotion. That's the very clear distinction.
Yeah. So yeah, it's true. There's nothing that makes you feel, with intuition, you always feel really calm and kind of blessed that it happened. It's kind of hard to describe, but until it happens to you.
And also be loving.
Yeah.
When you are in that state, you're loving, no matter whoever is around you.
Yeah.
In this one, there is no love. It's just judgment and anger.
Yes.
Beautiful. Thank you, Roger. Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate. Thank you.